Hey everyone, this is Rangadad, not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. Do my daily scan. Reasonably quick one today. You'll just focus on crypto because the markets haven't really done much at all. So, yeah, I mean, futures markets yesterday are increasing still, but they're still increasing at the moment. So it's not a bad sign, I guess, given that Trump is now inaugurated, I believe. Still hitting a bit of a potential resistance on ES1, so the mini futures on S&P 500, but in general, not really getting a read either way. The only thing is the momentum's still the upside. So the Russell's actually this is actually probably the most bullish thing you can see today on general stocks on the futures, is the Russell's got a big bump. Still 2.5 hours to go, but if this closes above this wick here, you would expect more upside after that, especially given the posturing of momentum and BBWP. All right. I don't think VIX or skew will be up. Rest of the markets, Chinese market and German market yesterday still pushed higher. So a little bit of a rejection there off a key level on Chinese market, but generally momentum's still in its favour. UK market still pushing through as well. Still want to see this do a retest to really confirm breakout of such a critical long-term region. Japanese market pushing higher slightly. The TLT wouldn't have been open today. Open, I don't believe. Chinese 10 years still pushing higher. 2 years had a massive jump. That's a good sign. It may start getting a bit of resistance here, but that's why we're getting this continuation of the uptick on the global liquidity. Copper, looks like it's just trying to get back into this key support level. Gold, decent volume today. Right. Gold's going to be quite interesting. We're looking for a breakout of this level here to actually signal that potentially a decent economic crash is actually happening. So worthwhile just paying attention to this, but for the time being, it's still rejecting off that resistance. It's just whether or not it's just pausing, ready to break through. And given the volume there, it could actually well break through that. Momentum's still high, but it is ticking below the signal line. Might just be a little pause here before breaking through. Kind of unconfirmed yet. Yeah, silver's still holding this trend line. Nothing really write home about. UK oil's pulling back still. Or is it US oil? So US oil breaking below that level probably means we're coming back into this supply here. It's not supply there anymore anyway. I would expect support around the 73.5 mark. Dixie, big pullback today. Breaking that trend line is actually quite critical. So again, I'd kind of like to see a retest of that level, but you don't necessarily have to do that. Dixie doesn't necessarily reconfirm trend lines when it breaks through them, just like this. So that's a good sign for markets overall. You want that to drop to allow markets to keep going up. So yeah, global liquidity still ticking to the upside. So let's have a look. Stablecoins versus BTC is actually rejected that trend line. So if that keeps coming down, then it would actually suggest that BTC is actually going to push higher from here. Does it look like doing that? It's really hard to tell at the moment. If this has another day of upside, then I would actually say Bitcoin's going to come down pretty hard. Because momentum will be shifting pretty majorly there. But at the same time, it's going to be shifting down on Bitcoin itself as well. So total crypto market cap is kind of floating. Lots of volume coming through in the last sort of 3 days. Volume spikes lately have seen sort of tops in markets. Tops and bottoms, I guess. Yeah, it's a tricky one to read, that one, just given so much transaction in the last 3 days to really go nowhere. Ethereum versus Bitcoin longs is still pushing higher. So these guys are really expecting Ethereum to rip compared to Bitcoin. But Ethereum longs are at pretty low levels. So I don't know what the deal is there. Bitcoin longs, oh, excuse me, have actually jumped a little as well. Yeah. One thing I did note was like finding a decent bottom in Bitcoin longs normally gets pretty close to like local tops. Like this here, January 21. Most of them were sold out by January 21. So, you know, these kind of show you, and this here was sort of the bottom of the markets, these spikes. So, and it was the same thing through here. They were pretty well the bottom of the markets. What's that telling me? We might be getting close to the top, but hopefully not the top yet. Not at this stage, anyway. Shorts. A lot of the shorters got wiped out of the system in the last couple of days, but starting to pick back up as well. Typically, spikes in shorters actually are better at picking bottoms than they are tops. ETH BTC, that actually does look like it wants to reverse to the upside. Ethereum still hasn't really gone anywhere though. I mean, decent day today, 4.2% so far. But it's still just in an area where even the point of control is just rejecting it. It can't even break through that, let alone this overhead resistance that was key resistance for quite a while and has provided support. So honestly, it doesn't look great for Ethereum. Ethereum's really got to run hard from here. So CME, I wouldn't consider CME as having a gap anymore based on this. Just bizarre that we've traded within a basically a $10,000 range in the same day and gone nowhere. Like we've spiked up, hit the top, come right back down and right back into the middle again. That's total swings like 20K. The market's really undecided at the moment. But we're still bouncing off the top of this downward trend line. This box here has still been a pretty good area to buy in so far. Big wicks to the upside. Typically, it will try and recover them. That was a perfect level there on that long-term trend line. That's the one that went back to the first high of that previous consolidation range. So yeah, we just kind of got to break through those levels now. Crown noted I think it was a 5-day setup with momentum and BBWP. It wasn't confirmed yesterday. I doubt it will be confirmed today. I think it's going to be borderline whether it gets confirmed, and BBWP is quite low on it. Could be confirmed actually. Typically, what it is basically momentum tick to the upside as BBWP is expanding off the lows. That's actually obviously didn't get confirmed during the close yesterday, but this is going to actually be quite critical, this 5-day period. If we think we're going on a bigger run into sort of February, March, then this setup actually, it has hit 100% of the time so far throughout the history of Bitcoin. I think from memory, the measured move was about 30% on average over the last 10 years. 30% would bring you up into the 130s. From there, I would suggest it's for this to really play out in a big way. It's probably going to be from a higher level, and we may not get the same level of pump, but I'd actually expect if we're breaking out of these key trend lines, I do still think that 150 is a potential target. But that's a good sign. It's just we've got 4 days before this actually gets confirmed, and typically I think it was 12 bars, which would put us in the middle of March. So that's again that's the average time for it to play out. So there's a little bit of hopium for you if this gets confirmed. If momentum's actually to the downside and BBWP starts increasing on the 5-day, I'd be getting quite concerned. To be honest, I think this would be the top if that happens. All right. Let's. The fact that this is a big vector candle here, so much volume, I would expect us to at least revisit this sort of level at some stage soon. But when we're doing vectors at the tops, it can take a while for it to get back up into those levels. So just keep that in mind. This was basically, oops. How many days was that? So that's over a month for it to get back up to this level last time. I think it was something similar in the 2021 bull run. Yeah, dailies is at a risk of actually confirming downside momentum while BBWP is still increasing. So it's definitely borderline here. The market's doing its best to shake a lot of people out. Sol looks like it's rejecting that all-time high. That's a pretty nasty looking setup as well. That is that's actually bearish divergence on momentum as well. I think Sol's actually going to pull back. Based on this, Sol should pull back reasonably hard. It'd have to be a pretty major turnaround from here. You're going to need to get a lot of upside momentum back on Sol to keep it above that bullish control zone. It could happen. Like the volatility that's going through the market at the moment is pretty nuts. XRP has actually crossed to the downside in terms of momentum, but it's still in that bullish control zone. So not super concerned at the moment, but it could also, by the time you get this confirmed, it'll wipe out most of the gains in the last couple of days. So I think it's something to be a little bit careful of. A lot of the alts haven't really gone very far. The alts are still bleeding. Even on Bitcoin's sort of pump and dump, they didn't really react very well. I mean, Sui's momentum is to the downside as BBWP is increasing. That actually suggests that this is a decent sort of top here. More downside potential for Sui, probably at least into the $3.50 mark. That's to be honest with you though, if we're doing that, I'd expect more downside on the rest of the market too. Algo's kind of bucking the trend a little bit. I don't know what it is about Algorand, but it's actually looking better than quite a few. Even AI is getting slammed. AI Fund got hammered. Sui AI, that's breaking down. I'd expect more on this. That's, yeah, these things are getting smashed. I think Goat's just been hammered as well. Goat turns around soon, that would be actually bullish divergence, but AI 16Z is getting a little bit of support here. It's a key level for it. Would be bullish divergence as well on that, but man, it like the market is so spread out. Liquidity is really spread out across alts at the moment, and doesn't take much for them to drop or pump. But knowing which one's going to do it at what time, even TA is tricky on these things. They don't follow great TA. I mean, Pendle's actually looking like it might be basing here. Pendle's probably not a bad one. Same with Pith potentially, but if we get another couple of days in this sort of region or a decent pump, Pith might actually have a decent move on it. Supra is getting hammered. Lingo's pulling back pretty hard. This probably concerns me the most is that most of these alts are not having a great time of it when Bitcoin's been up around its all-time highs for a while. Typically, you would see altcoins starting to run pretty hard, but I just don't think there's enough liquidity in the market. Retail just isn't there. Need to be looking for the successful businesses. Not sure is holding okay, which is interesting. A lot of these are just bleeding. Still bleeding. I mean, this is what you'd expect in a bear market, not a bull market. Beam's holding okay. Relatively new coin though. Not looking great though, but Beam's actually probably going to come down to 0.015. All right, I'm just gonna. So basically, what this is telling me is that we are in that sort of end of cycle phase, and I think the liquidity thing needs to change. We need to see a massive pump in global liquidity, or just liquidity across crypto market. And yeah, there may be a pump with like if the US wants to get a Bitcoin reserve, and a lot of other countries are looking at it as well. But I don't know that much of that's going to actually flow into alts, just because retail is struggling. Like retail figures and stuff from the Christmas period weren't as good as they needed to be. And there are indications that if you look at the Eurodollar University stuff, that people want to spend, but they just don't have the money. Particularly like more luxury, high margin items aren't moving, even if some of the lower margin stuff is. So it shows you there's a shift already going on in retail. So that's just something to keep in mind. Like picking the top in this market is going to be tough. And it will be linked to global macro. So for the time being, open interest is dropping quite hard. No real massive delta between the bid and the ask here. Looks like any sort of little pump is being sold off pretty quickly. Even this little one here's got sellers coming into it. Cumulative volume delta is massively to the downside as well. So again, we zoom out. it looks like it's starting to roll over. That to me suggests we may have actually found a local high here. Really need this to find a bottom above this. But for the time being, that looks like it's just heading in that direction. And that won't be great for the market overall. As you can see, spot is pretty well just on a downward trajectory. That spike there. I noticed Glassnode actually picked up on that as well and pointed out that that's typically that sort of spike typically actually kicks off a run to the upside. So there's a little bit of hopium for you, but it dropped a lot quicker than it normally does in that case. So just something to keep in mind there. Yeah, we need the funding rates to actually start picking up again, I think. Just some key things to keep an eye out for. We've left a little bit of liquidity up here, 160, 170 million odd up around the all-time high, 110. But geez, it ran hard just to get to this point. Like, to me, that's not the target. You're not pulling back that far just to pick up 140 million. To me, that's actually heading a lot further down. 97K, I think, was a potential target from the other day. Yeah, somewhere in the 97s is a target to watch out for, which would be putting in a lower low too. First lower low. So a bounce somewhere around there or even back down into 94 is possible. Let's have a look at the levels on that. So 96, 97 is actually the point of control there. So that would be a good spot for a bounce. Even like the 98, 359 is a pretty good spot as well. The fact that we've tested the top of this channel twice, I suspect it won't be too hard for it to actually break through that. So 97 is almost a given at that point. But at the same time, we will actually, if that happens, then momentum's probably going to be heading to the downside on a fairly high BBWP as well. So the move could be relatively quick. Yeah, all right. Still a decent amount of liquidity above. So there is still that potential that this is just liquidity hunting. Let's go out the 3 months. Yeah, there's not a lot up there compared to what there is down here. So I know 80, I think 80K or 85K or something. Yeah, 85K was kind of a key level for us. I think if we're breaking down these levels here, like there's not a lot of liquidity in this region. I suspect we will actually be coming down quite a bit harder. It's just a matter of what it wants first. The fact that it's moving down so aggressively, it's a double-edged sword. Like typically the fast move is the false move. like as you can see here, fast move, bounces. Yeah, fast move down, bounces, new all-time high. They're the kind of things you got to watch out for, but just looking at these charts, it's not like I'd be surprised if we keep pushing down through those key levels, these downward channels and the point of control and stuff like that. Like if we're not bouncing off that point of control and bouncing really quite solidly, then it's heading down. I don't see it not heading down to sort of the bottom of this area at least, so that 85k level really comes into play. All right. So looking at CoinAnk, that's a massive 100x long there. It just dwarfs the rest of the liquidation levels. Someone went massively long at basically 100k. Wow. I mean, that's a good sign, without a doubt. But it's just where the balance of orders on the books, like large orders, there's definitely a bit of a gap once you get down below that 83k mark. And realistically, 120k, there's not a lot above that at this stage. So we've got a big range there that we could sweep in either direction. I would fully expect a bounce around 84. The thing is, though, like, I'm still erring on the side of the bulls. And the only reason is speed of this move, and the stock market is still looking like it's postured to the upside. If we reject off these 200 and 800 EMAs and stuff like that, which, to be honest with you, it looks like we are going to do that, then downside first, 100%. If we just sort of break to the upside of these and reclaim these moving averages, then I do expect 120Ks on the cards relatively soon. It's just been so choppy in here. It's quite hard to actually hit. Damn it. I thought I had, there it is, last node. So these charts from Glassnode are pretty interesting as well. This was a couple of days ago, I think 5 days or so ago. So they've got the short time high realized price. So the top of this is at 127k. Yeah. Bounce off that 89k level again would be interesting. That's what that's kind of suggesting. But interesting chart to look at, because most highs don't get much past this red line. They may sweep above that, and that would potentially allow us to get up into the 130s, maybe 150 at a pinch. But this is kind of showing you that we are towards the top of this run, potentially. Maybe one more leg up. But it's just, I also don't think, like, looking at previous ones saying, oh, this is what we're going to do, I still stand by that we just can't do that this bull market. Another interesting thing, basically, this is entity adjusted relative unrealized loss is quite low. Typically, it's in the regions where you actually get tops in markets. So, sorry, tops in Bitcoin. So, something to be aware of there. That's a reasonable topping signal, but it's what I would call it's in the bullish control zone as well. Want to see a bit more of a spike in that to really suggest that we're coming down, which we may have got. I'm not sure. Need to look at this a bit closer. Same sort of thing here. We did peak above that that level there, which is typically a sign that you're at least going to go sideways for a little bit. Yeah. You want to see this starting to accelerate to the upside again, really. At the moment, there's kind of some indicators are starting to show sort of on-chain data that we may be getting to local highs for even macro highs, getting close. As you can see, sort of spiking to these sort of levels brings in peaks. Okay, that was a massive run, and I don't expect these sort of things again because we just don't have the retail liquidity to come into the market. All right. People just aren't interested in gambling spare cash at the moment. And that's effectively what they were doing back here. All right. So I just thought that was interesting. Just remember too, we had quite a few large transactions at the highs here on IBIT, BlackRock ETF on Friday. Obviously that doesn't open till tomorrow US time. Tonight my time. And yeah, I suspect that this is going to drop at this stage. Like said before, I'm erring on bullish. I'm actually I don't think this is a point where you short the market. This is the point where you should be taking profits. So let's put it that way. Short-term timeframes are different. You can go each way, whichever way the charts are pointing. But if you're holding decent bags of different things, then yeah, I'd be taking some profits off the table. You can leave some to run in case we do get a spike out to 120 or more. But my thinking is, yeah, take some profits. Just have a quick look at shorter time frames. So the bot had a bad trade there. I'm just trying to get rid of that scenario out of the system at the moment, but overall it had a reasonable trade there. Yeah, look, this is actually potentially a good bounce. Like the 800 EMA here, so that's the 200 on the 1 hour, has provided support again. Like it provided support here, provided support here again. There is still plenty of upside to go on this. So like, it's not necessarily going to go straight to the top standard deviation, but there's room to move is what I would say here. MACD momentum is back to the upside on the 15-minute. This is actually a chart, aggregated cumulative volume delta RSI. I had a quick look at that, and it's actually a very interesting indicator. So if you look up aggregated cumulative volume delta, I think it's by, I can't remember his name. Oh, there's only two of them that come up if you type aggregated cumulative. And then I just added an EMA to it, 20 period EMA, and crosses of that EMA, and particularly bullish divergences on the RSI, are pretty freaking good signals actually that there is a move happening. So I'm going to potentially use this to guide some of these rules, but haven't really tested it yet. And one of the issues is it can, like any RSI, can really struggle through sort of flat areas. So just keep that in mind as well. But I should be able to combine it with some of the other rules that I'm doing to get decent trades out of it. It's certainly, if I was using it, it wouldn't have created that trade there. All right. Shorter time frames. Look, at the moment, it may actually reject this sort of level. The 200 EMA on the 15 minutes, so the 50 on the 1 hour, has been broken quite significantly. It needs to break back above that to go bullish again. And there isn't, there isn't actually a lot left above to actually attract that. Like this vector candle here has effectively been recovered. There's a little vector here. And realistically, we got basically these candles have been recovered as well. So there's actually, like, we may even reject off this trend line again. So this trend line's been pretty critical. Like, it even got a bounce off it from above, and it got a rejection off it once it broke through as well. So at most, we would potentially get another rejection off that, which would probably coincide with a higher time frame rejection of it. So yeah, the 4 hours looks like it may want to do it, but even the 1 hour has kind of retested that already. So may get a little bit of upside into this area, but yeah, 107 at this stage is probably, just looking at these charts, 107 looks like it should provide some significant resistance. All right. I think that's about it for today. Pivots. Yeah, we never really held for very long above that first pivot there. Kind of surprised, but I mean, that's showing on the 1 hour false breakout of that trend line as well. Very aggressive retest of it too. So, and that the 100K sort of area is a reasonably significant pivot as well. So, but at this stage, it actually looks like, yeah, it looks like, based on these charts, that any pumps should actually be met with selling. For the time being, it may actually potentially come down before it goes back up to. Tough trading these sort of events. The last couple of inaugurations have basically been green for 3 months afterwards as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Potentially, once the market comes to terms with everything that Trump's going to do in the first week, we may actually then get a more sustained move to the upside. But yeah, the macro indicators are suggesting that even if we do, there's a potential that wherever, like I'd be looking at wherever we are in sort of March, April this year, if we are higher than here, I'd be suspect that it's actually going to be the high of the market. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, though. All right. Quick look at the Aussie market. The Aussie market's looking reasonably bullish as well. So that if markets overall stay bullish, then that will help Bitcoin push through those key levels. And then we can just ignore this bullshit over the last 2 days. All right.